Hi guys, it's Taka from Edo Matcha. Today we are honored to have special guests from Urasenke, Tea Master Robert and Mihoko. Thank you very much for joining us today. And then we are going to interview Tea Master Robert about Urasenke Sydney and also his journey of tea ceremony. And later on, Mihoko will do tea ceremony demonstration.
Yes, at the moment I'm 69 years old, but I became interested in tea through pottery. And I remember seeing a tea bowl in a museum in San Francisco. I later discovered it was a tea bowl. And as I was just learning about pottery, I could see this object, and it had a name and it had a history and it also had a presence. It was significant, and I could understand that. It was owned, I'm not sure by who, but this person was a samurai who I knew was a warrior or a soldier. Also, he was a monk and also a daimyo. So this multifaceted person valued this object, and I knew it was special. So I started reading history about tea ceremony and also ceramics to do with tea ceremony. I can't say anything specifically, only that it existed. I first travelled to Japan over 20 years ago and realised that not having any Japanese was a definite impediment. So I resolved to learn Japanese, but being a shift worker, I couldn't go to the normal lessons at TAFE or university. I had to get a tutor, and that tutor and her husband taught me Japanese, and luckily the lady, she studied tea as well. And we spoke about it, and then I was eventually asked to join a lesson with her teacher in Newcastle, where I live. But my initial interest was through pottery. I first started about 20 years ago, and I've kept on practicing when I can. Usually with weekly lessons. What's inspired me, and there's been a number of up and downs, and I think everybody goes through this, is number one, learning more about myself. Number two, learning about relationships and other people. And number three, learning about the environment or nature we live in. And also there's an artistic side to it as well. For me, tea's been very hard, both physically and mentally, because it asks many questions that I have to answer in my own way, or a way that makes sense to me and sense to my normal everyday friends or the man in the street or Australian society. So it throws up many questions, so I'm thinking about it quite a bit. Okay?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yes, I'm actually quite fascinated by your answers. It's very deep.
I'll probably give you two, and one was an experience just sitting in my teacher's tea room in Newcastle, and I think it was a cold winter's day, so it was definitely nice and cosy, and we could smell the aroma of tea and smell very slight smell of freshly made okashi. And it was lovely. And the lady next to me who taught me Japanese, she said, "Now you understand." And another time was an old man I learnt pottery off, and he lived in the Blue Mountains, and I did too. And I used to work with him 1 or 2 days a week on my days off work. And he was quite elderly and becoming quite frail and had to move into a home. And he wasn't terribly happy. He liked his freedom. And I went and served him a bowl of tea, and he didn't even drink the tea. But he said, "This is the most wonderful thing or civilised thing that's happened to me in the last 6 months." And he's a man I greatly respected and learnt a lot of.
Thank you.
What preceded Urasenke in Sydney was in the 1930s, a famous Oxford Don called Sadler lived here and actually built a tea room, I think, and was interested in tea ceremony. he actually went to Japan and researched and wrote a book, which is still well worth reading, and lived at Konichian, I think, for 6 months and observed what they were doing, and then wrote a very practical book. It was very interesting. Urasenke Sydney, it was actually inaugurated, I think, in 1963. 73. So it's recently just celebrated 50 years anniversary. And it was started by a lady called Rosalind McVitie, who had lived in Kyoto for a number of years because her husband was studying there. And she came home wanting to keep some of these cultural activities she'd learnt in Japan alive. So she built a tea room. She was also interested in ikebana. Our 15th Grand Master, Dr. Sen, who's just passed away actually, he was aged 102. He took over the leadership, or being the Ayamoto of Urasenke after the war, when his father died. And he wanted to take tea to the world, his style of tea, and show the world about it. And his theme was peacefulness through a bowl of tea. So he heard about Rosalind serving tea, contacted her and asked if because she was originally learning Omoto-senke in Japan, he wanted her to learn Urasenke.
Yes.
And he supported her greatly over the years.
Wow.
Even sending a senior teacher for 6 months to live and teach her. And so she inaugurated it, Urasenke in Sydney, and it's continued on. We now have 5 teachers with Urasenke Association. Members are in Newcastle, Sydney, the Blue Mountains and Canberra. So those teachers have students who they have accepted and teach. But we also run events, public events, an annual Chakai for the public, which is coming up shortly. We also do other events in the Blue Mountains and all throughout Sydney metropolitan area. And also importantly, every year we go to Cowra twice a year for their spring festival and also autumn festival. Cowra is ground zero for Japanese and Australian relationship, and is very important to both countries.
Thank you so much. I would like to just send my deepest condolence to Dr. Sen. I didn't have a chance to meet with him, but I know him through the documentaries and interview, and I have a deep respect for him. He spread the tea culture. So yes, I am quite sad that he passed away, but I would like to carry on his spirit in my way for the future. Yeah, thank you.
I only met him once or twice and only briefly, but he is a man who walks the talk and puts his heart on his sleeve and will carry on his work. Remember, tea ceremony is a living tradition. It lives and changes and adapts. And this is one of the legacies we'll try and carry on. Most certainly there's a matcha fad at the moment, which we don't like because it's making our tea more expensive and a little bit harder to get. And people are interested, yes, the overflow, some people are interested in tea ceremony. But what I warn people is that it is quite difficult and hard if you take it on. But there's many aspects to tea. People like, even in Japan and in Australia, all around the world, like the different facets of tea ceremony. There might be something they really enjoy about it. And so that can be an entry point into it, a thing you understand. Mine was pottery or ceramics, but there's many other things. It might be wearing clothes or architecture, sweets, metalwork, calligraphy, many things, or spirituality or Buddhism or Zen. It can be many things, yeah. And that can be a handy way into it to understand it. Rick Hughes said there was 4 basics to a good tea ceremonies, or aspects that should be present for a good tea ceremony. Now, he lived 400 years ago from a different culture, but he emphasised harmony, respect, purity, and tranquility. Now, we could probably speak a day on each subject about what they actually mean and how to express them in your daily life or in a practical way. And also honesty and caring about other people. Each gathering usually has a reason for it. Tea ceremony is usually a meeting between people, although you can do it just serve tea for yourself. It could be a meditative practice, but usually it's a meeting between people, so there's a reason for a meeting. The guest comes to listen to what the theme of the meeting is by the host. So the guest should try and understand the host, and the host understand the guest along those 4 principles I told you. Tea ceremony, as we know, most communication between humans is not non-verbal. So our posture, how we look, the visual elements are very important. So we experience tea ceremony through all our senses. So one of the smell, the sense of smell, has a very close relationship in the brain to the mood centres in your brain. So smell can put you in a certain frame of mind very quickly. And so when we enter the tea room, we usually pass through a little garden, Roji. And this is a transition space before we get to the tea room, where we're leaving the outside world. And so we enter the tea room in a state of mind that's tranquil. We call it jaku. But it's more a state of mind that it's not mindful, but equanimity. That means you don't let anything affect you. Although we're emotional beings and we live in a world that's always changing, we try and keep our own thoughts not controlled, but we don't let a lot of things, or we try not to let the outside thing. So if we leave, I'll ask you a question. So if you leave all your outside world behind, the hats you wear, the roles you play, you're a husband and a lover, you have a job, you're a son, but if you take, and we call that ego, if you take that away and you enter the tea room, what sort of being is left?
Very interesting.
I've answered that question. It's somebody that's free and happy and wants to be.
Wow, very interesting. Does that mean that just being true yourself or free? Sorry, I just want. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're free. You don't have these responsibilities. You're just like a baby in a cot.
Wow, very interesting.
Except you're an adult. So, nothing could hurt you because you have your attitude of equanimity. So you don't have to protect yourself. So that's what I was saying. This tea asks me many questions, which I have to explain and answer to myself, and understand and agree with. So I've asked many questions of myself and understand it I think a little bit better. That's a little bit hard for me to answer because the only tea I know is Urasenke. I know Omote, some small details about their temai that is different, their way of serving tea, although we have to make tea in the same basic way. Add tea to the bowl and then hot water and then whisk it. I know there are minor details of difference. Also a little bit of history, and there are different traditions, but they are closely related, and they do have a cooperative relation. We do have the same founder. We trace our roots back to Senno Riku, and then it's divided. Omote Senke has also divided as well, and there's an offshoot of that called Edo Senke. Which is, I'm not sure, I don't know much about its history, but it's based in Tokyo. Yeah. These tea schools tend not to mix in Japan, but probably they mix a little bit in Australia, where there's less numbers of our group, so we get together and cooperate. And so if I was serving tea to an Omote person, I only know Urasenke. So I use my way. Yeah, and the person would drink tea in their way. So that's our traditions. It's a cooperative one, and yeah. It's not
From my understanding, I feel like Urasenke is spreading internationally compared to Omotesenke and Mushano Senke.
Yeah.
I found it that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's because of the efforts of Dr. Sen. Whether now I don't think it will continue in that with that amount of support going into the future after his death.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you.
Great question. You try, if you have a dilemma, you try and resolve it according to those principles. You certainly enjoy nature more and take a greater notice of nature and the changing of the seasons with different flowers or different plants changing. You try and have, some people will serve a bowl of tea to themselves each morning as a exercise or a meditative exercise. So there's many ways you can do it, not only being more living your life according to those principles. You can try to do it. It's very difficult, but we try. Oh, lots of things. Those 4 principles of harmony and respect, purity and tranquility. That's what it has to offer. There's many things if you want to, and I think those principles apply in all cultures at all times. It's more a humanistic qualities that we should be looking forward to. Although it's based in Buddhism and Japanese culture, we can learn so much from that.
Thank you so much for answering all the questions. It was fantastic. I have learned a lot from you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.